Hey everyone, welcome to Permeate Evangelism. I have a question for you. What hinders you from sharing the good news of Jesus with others, if you're honest with yourself? In all the trainings that I do, I love to ask the question, what hinders us from sharing the gospel? The most common response is fear. Fear can paralyze you, give you anxiety, and maybe even cause you to run away from a situation. We often say to each other, just don't fear. God says don't fear in the Bible, which is true. However, if you search the scriptures, if you read those in the context, I would argue that actually God doesn't say don't fear, but he actually redirects our fear. And so what I want to do today is walk through with you how we can redirect our fear towards God, which will launch us into evangelism in a greater way. And so let's get to the most popular object of fear that paralyzes, and that is the fear of man. And so we might ask the question when we're sharing the gospel or potentially sharing the gospel, will this ruin my reputation? Or what will they say about me? What will they say about me to my face and maybe even behind my back? And possibly, what will they do to me? All these things, these questions come in and they paralyze us in fear as we fear mankind, men and women. And so, what is the problem with this fear? First and foremost, it's pride. Because think about it. Does your reputation really matter? At the end of the day, the opinion of only one matters. In Galatians 1:10, the Apostle Paul is talking about he's not seeking the approval of man, he's seeking the approval of God. And as a believer in Jesus, that is what we are seeking, is the approval of God, for he is worthy. Second, this fear of man is ultimately a wrong belief of who mankind is, and also a wrong belief of who God is. Matthew 10:28 says this, and do not fear those who may kill the body, but cannot impact eternity. But rather it says, fear him who can destroy both body and soul in hell for all eternity. And so there is a reality of hell and judgment. There is a reality of God who judges justly. So let's move our fear away from mankind, who really has no eternal impact, to the God who judges eternally. And so our fear can be redirected from the temporal towards the God who judges eternally. And so when you are nervous to bring up maybe something about God, about Jesus, or even the full gospel message at work, maybe at a lunch, what's causing you to not share? What's going through your mind? What fears might be there? Is this a misplaced fear? Maybe is it a fear of what they might say? Or is it a proper fear of God? Maybe when you're sharing a meal with your family, maybe at a holiday, and you're sharing what's going on with your life, or sharing about what you've learned in the Bible, or how God's growing you, or maybe even, again, the full gospel message. But what's holding you back in that moment to share? Why aren't you sharing that part of the gospel message? Is it a fear of man? Is it fear of what they might say? And so in that moment, when we have that fear that might paralyze us, that might give us anxiety, how can we respond? The first is let God search your heart. Is this a healthy fear, or is this a misdirected fear? Next, confess and repent of that fear if it is misplaced. If you're fearful of what man will do or say, confess and turn to God, and that he might change you, he might grow you. And in response to that, ask God to give you a greater fear of him, a realization of who God is. And as a result of that fear of God, it won't cause you to cripple or say, I am unworthy. When we fear God properly, it will actually give us a confidence and a boldness to share Jesus, knowing that he is with you and he is for you. So redirect your fear from man towards the living God. And as a reminder, 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, for God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, of love, and self-control. And so this anxiety, paralysis producing fear goes away when we fear God, and it produces love, power, self-control as we share the gospel. And so I pray that all of us would redirect our fears of things that cripple us, but rather fear God, who will launch us into ministry, into sharing this good news of Jesus to everyone around us.